As Chancellor of the University, I declare this congregation open for the conferring of degrees by the authority of the Senate and Council.
As Vice-Chancellor of this university, I'm delighted to welcome you today to this degree congregation. It's terrific at this point in the academic year to meet our graduands, and I say to meet our graduands because many of them are coming to Leicester for the first time. It is indeed the occasion when many of members of the congregation are in fact our distance learning students. And it's a real pleasure to welcome you to the degree ceremony and to our university, together with your friends, your relatives, your sponsors, visitors, and many other guests. Now, degree ceremonies are unique occasions. They are unique because they remain in the memory of each and every person who participates. Now, some of you may say, well, they may last in the memory for those of us in the congregation. What about the platform party? Well, I would say they are unique occasions for us. Each congregation is different. Each composition of the audience is different. But it is also unique for me today because this is the first occasion when I come to the university as a new Vice-Chancellor, and it is indeed the first degree ceremony that I have attended in the University of Leicester. But then you might say, so what kind of university are you graduating from? I think this degree ceremony gives us a clue. First of all, Leicester is an international university, and that means it's international in terms of its students. That is apparent in the congregation that I look at this afternoon. It is also a university that is heavily postgraduate. Heavily postgraduate in terms of 9,000 of our current students out of a total student population of 17,000 are postgraduate students. And of those, 5,000 are studying with us by distance learning methods. Indeed, many of you who are studying by distance learning will say we may have not seen the university before, but we have often welcomed huge packages of material from the University of Leicester through your front door, and that in studying with us, you have worked late evenings and early mornings. But rest assured, you've just finished that. Some of the people on the platform who write the distance learning materials, their labours do not end. They now have to write even more material, and they too have to work late evenings and early mornings. So you get the benefit today in comparison with some of them. Certainly, one of the things about Leicester is that it is distinctive in terms of offering face-to-face tuition to undergraduate students based on campus. But its postgraduate population reflects the UK in being the fastest growing sector. And we are ever looking to improve the opportunities that we provide for postgraduate students and those engaged in study by distance learning methods. Only yesterday did we open an area in the library distinctly for use of distance learning students. No longer do you have to visit the library, but visit via the internet, via email, by phone, by fax. It is a fast-growing technology which will transform the way in which we deliver information to our students and indeed to researchers. But our patterns of study are different for different members of the congregation. For those of you who have gained doctoral degrees and who will be rewarded with those degrees today, I think it's an exciting prospect that we have both a new worker and a new work. Often, those who are studying at doctoral level, just as those for master's degrees, actually are linking their study with professional training. And from that point of view, postgraduate study speaks to the spirit of the age by being important as part of the lifelong learning agenda. That brings with it an advantage for those of you who graduate today. Today is not the end, but rather the beginning. It gives you a platform from which to engage in further study. And indeed, I suspect that many academic staff will be lurking in the entrance hall after, ready to sign you up for another programme with the University of Leicester. Certainly, I hope there will be opportunities for you to study with us on other occasions. But one of the things that we also need to think about is that even if you don't return to study with us, we do hope you maintain good relationships with us. From that point of view, each and every person graduating today automatically becomes a member of the Leicester Graduates Association, and that means that you have an automatic link with the university, and we hope that you will attend many of the events organised by the Alumni Association. Certainly, I hope to meet you at some of those events, and I also hope that we will get an opportunity to meet some of you at future degree congregations. But I think before I sit down, there is one thing that I should ask you to join with me in doing. Degree congregations are celebrations, and being celebrations, it means that we should certainly make sure that we applaud each and every graduate today. One thing is you've got to keep the platform party, and in particular the Vice-Chancellor, awake during the course of the afternoon. So just to make sure and just to show you the multifaceted role of the Vice-Chancellor, I thought we should have a bit of warm-up practice before we begin. And one of the things that I would like you to do is, given the way in which your friends, your relatives, your families, your sponsors have supported you as graduates of the University of Leicester, I think it's time that you showed your appreciation of the support that you've had by joining with me in applauding all your friends, supporters and families. So, graduates of the University of Leicester, this is your chance. I think in terms of the language of quality assurance, that means that you have actually provided an adequate demonstration that you can applaud effectively, and I shall therefore sit down knowing that you will make sure that you do keep the Vice-Chancellor awake during the course of the afternoon, and I hope you have a terrific afternoon and enjoy the degree congregation. Thank you very much indeed.
There's a saying in motor racing that designers of Formula One cars never die, they just come to a pit stop. In the case of Mario Illien, engine designer for the Mercedes-McLaren Formula One team, it's difficult to imagine him ever slowing down long enough. Since 1983, when he founded Ilmore Racing with his partner Paul Morgan, his success in the field of motor racing has been phenomenal. Initially, the company, which is based just south of Leicester at Brixworth, comprised only he and his partner, but it has now grown to an operation employing 365 people as mechanics, machinists, administrators, and high security guards. In that time, the racing engines which have been designed and built there have achieved astonishing success. For example, the IndyCar racing, which is so popular in America, requires cars to run at 230 miles an hour, non-stop, at full pelt, for as much as 500 miles. The engines Mario Illien designs to meet this demanding schedule for Chevrolet and later Mercedes proved so successful that it is believed they prompted the racing authorities to change the rules so as to give the opposition a chance. In Formula One as well, the story is one of astonishing success, though with very different requirements on the car's power plants. Formula One cars don't hurtle around relatively smooth oval tracks like Indy cars, but instead have to tackle gradients, maneuver through chicanes, hairpin bends, and so on. This means the engines spend relatively limited amounts of time on full throttle, with frequent and wide variations in the speed and performance demands throughout each of the races. So how does Mario Illien explain the way in which he can find such success in developing versatile engines which can meet such diverse objectives? His answers, like those of all highly talented people, make it seem so simple. Simple, that is, until anyone tries to emulate him. For example, he'll calmly tell you that the underlying design philosophy behind his approach has always been the same: to engineer as compact and light an engine as the current state-of-the-art knowledge makes possible. Then, with a trace of a smile, he gently alludes to the tricky bit, namely that in doing so, there must be no compromises on power, fuel economy, or engine reliability. If pressed a little harder, he'll explain that in order to achieve these objectives, it is not possible to rely solely on computers. Much more important is generating ideas through intuition and engineering by the seat of your pants. Small wonder, then, that his ability to reconcile all those factors has made him into what The Guardian recently referred to as the most influential technical brain of all. In trying to uncover where this engineering flair originates, we must look back to his childhood. For most people, earliest memories tend to be for incidental things, such as favourite toys, holidays, or haunting recollections of unsolicited kisses from moustached aunties. But not so for Mario Illien. His particular Proustian experience goes back to when he was only 4 years old, and memories of being fascinated by the sound of engines. He vividly remembers standing with his friends behind walls, awaiting passing cars, and on the sole basis of hearing the engine note, being able to tell not only the make of the car, but also which engine was under the bonnet. From that time onwards, he has always been focused on motor engineering. Like many new drivers in his native Switzerland, his first car was a blue Volkswagen Beetle. But unlike the rest, he hotted up his car in almost every conceivable respect, from the suspension right through to the crankshaft. One suspects that the end product surprised many an unwitting Porsche owner who, prior to being overtaken, thought that it was they who owned the sports car. But this is perhaps the real reason for his success. Not simply immense design talent and skill, but a passion for the job. It is this personal commitment which, even before he went to university in Biel to study engineering, led him to design his first Formula 2 engine at the age of only 23. And again, it is this personal commitment which keeps him motivated to the point that colleagues frequently find him having worked such long hours that he has fallen asleep at his design desk. There is another aspect to our graduand which is not related directly to engineering flair, and that is his completely unassuming manner. In a world like Formula One, which has its fair share of strong personalities, rivalries, and sometimes feuds, it's very refreshing to find Mario Illien. When asked which instance so far in his career stood out most in his mind, we may have expected he'd point to any one of a string of race victories and other achievements. Instead, he recalls how in 1997, at the legendary Nürburgring circuit in Germany, he was surrounded by members of the Mercedes board while monitoring the performance of the two Mercedes racing cars, which at the time were roaring ahead of the field, leading first and second from the start. The cars looked invincible, until on lap 43, 2/3 of the way through the race, the first car, driven by Mika Häkkinen, developed an ominous-sounding misfire, and then conked out completely, coming to rest right under the very noses of the Mercedes top brass. He recalls, though, that it was fortunate that the second car, which was driven by David Coulthard, was able to move up to take the lead. He also recalls how, somewhat less fortunately, a lap later, that car too succumbed to a misfire, and it too stopped immediately in front of him and his incredulous companions. When asked what they said, he replied with a chuckle, "Not a lot." It is a great pleasure for the university to be able to honour someone who has contributed so much to the field of international motorsport. And we wish him continued success when on March the 12th in Melbourne, Australia, the first Formula One race of the millennium will take place. This season promises to be particularly exciting, with new entries from Mercedes' arch-rivals Jaguar and BMW. Characteristically, though, our graduate sees this new competition in a positive way, as being not only good for the sport, but also a stimulating prospect for future technical development. Mr. Chancellor, on the recommendation of the Senate and the Council, I present Mario Joseph Illien, that you may confer upon him the honorary degree of Doctor of Science.
I think you the degree of Doctor of Science. Congratulations.
It is my privilege to introduce to this degree congregation Brian Simon, Emeritus Professor of Education in this university. Brian Simon's active involvement in education spans 60 years, in which he has seen his vision of greater equality in primary and secondary education achieved. It was at Cambridge in the 1930s that he first began to consider an issue which dominated much of his academic work: developing an educational system which enables all pupils to maximize their potential. After Cambridge, he went to the Institute of Education in London. This was followed in 1939 by a term as President of the National Union of Students. He argued strongly that the universities should continue to function during the war, in which he saw service in the Royal Corps of Signals. From 1945 to 1950, he taught in Manchester and Salford, keen, and I quote him, to become thoroughly involved in the real problems of education, teaching and learning in proper public schools maintained by local education authorities. In 1950, he came for an interview at what was then University College, Leicester. This was an amiable affair chaired by Frederick Attenborough, father of Richard and David, and principal of the college. There was much laughter and good humour. It seemed to go well, but the job was offered to another candidate. However, Brian was asked to stay behind, and a further job was found since there was a need for his expertise. It is a challenge to know how to summarise Professor Simon's towering contribution in a short oration. His output is both immense and formidable, and there is nearly 60 years of it. 3 strands can be discerned. First, the writing of a monumental history of education in England and Wales from 1780 to 1990. Secondly, the pioneering of new empirical methods through systematic observation in the classroom. And third, the championing of the cause of equality of opportunity in education. The 4 volumes of his history of education cover the period from 1780 to 1990. They are undoubtedly the definitive work, chronicling the link between patrician benevolence and the reinforcement of social inequality, which has frequently characterized the nation's educational system. Brian's experience in the classroom led him to conclude that there was a crying need for a pedagogy of primary education. He turned to psychology, drawn in particular to the work of Russian psychologists, which illuminated how children learn, how important language is in the process, and how limitless human potential is. His wife, Joan, translated key works so that they could be presented to Western readers. Systematic classroom observation became the key to discovering which classroom techniques really made a difference. Recording what happened in the classroom had always been important to Brian Simon, even before he became a lecturer. His recorded observations from a Manchester primary classroom in 1947 perhaps mark the beginnings of what was to become the groundbreaking and hugely influential research report with the full title of Observational Research and the Classroom Learning Environment, which everyone knows as Oracle. He directed the programme between 1970 and 1980, working with his colleague Maurice Galton, who continued the work following Brian's retirement. Professor Simon concluded that close analysis of the practice of teaching should be the central focus of teacher training and educational research. That it now is shows how compelling his conclusions were. The third strand of his work is his crusade for the introduction of non-selective comprehensive education. This was based upon a passionate personal belief in fairness for all and was informed by rigorous scientific inquiry, which suggested flaws in the intelligence tests that were at the heart of selection and early streaming. He became one of the principal voices in the national debate on educational provision, which culminated in the endorsement of comprehensive education by the Labour government of 1965. Though Brian Simon retired from the university in 1980, this was not a time to wind down, but a time when, liberated from teaching, editing, and administration, and again I quote him, new scope was available for thinking and writing. Brian Simon's academic career cannot be measured in the usual way by the milestone of retirement, since he has continued to think, to write, and to offer fresh insights into his subject, including his refreshing autobiographical memoir in 1998 entitled A Life in Education. Only recently has he moved away from education to write about members of his family. Brian Simon tells me that none of his achievements would have been possible without the support of his wife, Joan. Her distinguished work on Tudor education means that between them, they own the history of education. Her shared vision and her own work have meant that theirs has been a personal and professional partnership of impressive proportions. The University of Leicester today recognises a lifetime of learning, scholarship, and the uncompromising pursuit of truth that is the hallmark of all that is best in higher education. Mr. Chancellor, on the recommendation of the Senate and the Council, I present to you Brian Simon that you may confer upon him the honorary degree of Doctor of Letters.
This is Honorary Degree, Doctor of Letters. We welcome you, Mike. Congratulations.
Mr. Chancellor, sir, as you know, I have been deputed to thank the University on behalf of Dr. Illien and myself for the great honour you have conferred on us this afternoon. Dr. Illien is a highly skilled engineer, as we have just heard. Both my father and grandfather were engineers, so I have a natural affinity to that profession. I am very glad to be linked with Dr. Illien at this ceremony. My wife and I came to Leicester in 1950, expecting to remain here about 5 years. We were out by a factor of 10, perhaps more. But we have never regretted this. Leicester remains a fine and, above all, a friendly university, even if it has expanded from the 600 students at all levels in 1950 to some 10 or even 15,000 now. In my 4 or more decades as an active teacher and researcher here, we had every opportunity and encouragement to follow our interests wherever they led. In my case, from local history to the mysteries of psychometrics, from the structure of the school system as a whole to the inner complexities of the primary school classroom. And in all this, we have received much assistance and support from the very many fine scholars who have taught and researched here in many adjoining fields. For education abuts on all areas of human activity. That is why it is such a fascinating area for research and study. To be awarded an honorary degree by my own university is perhaps the most heartwarming experience of my life. And I include my wife in this because, as the public orator said, in our now over 60 years of partnership, we have worked very closely together in all fields of joint interest. May I then take this opportunity, on behalf of Dr. Illien and myself, to thank you, sir, as our Chancellor, and the university as a whole, for the honour you have done us today, and to add our welcome to our new Vice-Chancellor, who we are very glad to see among us this afternoon. And may I offer each of you who are being awarded the degrees you have worked for over the midnight oil in many cases, our very best wishes for an energetic and creative future. Thank you very much.
The graduands in the Faculty of Arts will be presented by the Dean, Professor Pearce. Will all graduands in the faculty please stand?
Mr. Vice-Chancellor, I ask you to admit these candidates from the Faculty of Arts to the several degrees for which they are presented.
Graduates of the Faculty of Arts, by the authority of the Senate, I admit you to the several degrees which you are presented.
For the degree of Doctor of Philosophy, Robert Witcher. For the degree of Master of Arts in Archaeology and Heritage, Elizabeth Alsop. Fiona Gale. Brian Giggins. Amelia Pannett. Louise Wilson. For the degree of Master of Arts in English Literature and Literary Research, Judith Fish. For the degree of Master of Arts in Modern Literature, Theory and Practice, James Bayton. For the degree of Master of Arts in Museum Studies, Jane Lillystone.
Congratulations, brother.
For the degree of Master of Arts in Post-Excavation Skills, Benjamin Barker.
Congratulations.
Matilda Britton.
Congratulations.
Gillian Hawkes.
Congratulations.
Kane Hegarty.
Congratulations.
Sophie Lamb.
Congratulations.
Gladys Montiel.
Congratulations.
For the degree of Master of Arts in Victorian Studies, Catherine Bambridge.
Congratulations.
Mr. Chancellor, I ask you to admit to the several degrees for which they are presented by my faculty those candidates who are absent.
By the authority of the Senate, I admit those candidates who are absent to the several degrees which they are presented.
The graduands in the Faculty of Science will be presented by the Dean, Professor Light. Will all graduands in the faculty please stand?
Mr. Chancellor, I ask you to admit these candidates from the Faculty of Science to the several degrees for which they are presented.
Graduands of the Faculty of Science, by the authority of the Senate, I admit you to the several degrees which you are presented.
For the degree of Doctor of Science, Philip Weaver.
I give you the degree of Doctor of Science. Congratulations.
For the degree of Doctor of Philosophy, Raya Al-Khalili.
Congratulations.
Jason Dykes. Christopher Eardley. Charles Eaton. Kimberly Friedman. Ian Hutchinson. Hina Kalm. Ho Law. Matthew Perrin. Barry Pollard. Kelly Wilding. Lee Kun Yao. For the degree of Master of Science in Earth Observation Science, Philip Cooper. Richard Hilton. Adrian Jupp. Jane Thompson. For the degree of Master of Science in Geographical Information Systems, Paul Beaumont. Stephen Blenkinsop. Andrew Burry. Cleto Demetriou. John Fannon. John Fox,
Congratulations.
Leslie Friars,
Congratulations.
Alexander Hadjot,
Congratulations.
Ben Holmes,
Congratulations. Well done.
Neil Kay,
Congratulations.
Peter Robson,
Congratulations.
Daniel Rowland,
Congratulations.
Colin Shepherd,
Congratulations.
Stephen Tate,
Congratulations.
Karen Taylor.
Congratulations.
For the degree of Master of Science in Mineral Exploration, Effie McGraw.
Congratulations.
Alia Ocker,
Congratulations.
David Stewart.
Congratulations.
For the degree of Master of Science in Systems Engineering, Ridwan Kariman.
Congratulations.
Mr. Chancellor, I ask you to admit to the several degrees for which they are presented by my faculty those candidates who are absent.
By the authority of the Senate, I admit those candidates who are absent to the several degrees which they are presented.
The graduands in the Faculty of the Social Sciences will be presented by the Dean, Dr. Nagreen. Will all graduands in the faculty please stand?
Big crowd.
Mr. Chancellor, I ask you to admit these candidates from the Faculty of the Social Sciences to the several degrees for which they are presented.
Graduates of the Faculty of the Social Sciences, by the authority of the Senate, I admit you to the several degrees which you are presented.
For the degree of Doctor of Philosophy, Sin Yin Chang.
I admit you to the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. Congratulations.
Stephen Swales.
I admit you to the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. Congratulations.
Michelle Tonglet.
I admit you to the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. Congratulations.
For the degree of Master of Arts in Comparative Policing and Social Conflict, Max Edelstein.
Congratulations.
Louise Lavelle.
Congratulations.
For the degree of Master of Arts in Comparative Social Policy, Susan Dunstall.
Congratulations. Well done.
For the degree of Master of Arts in Criminology, Michelle Andreuki.
Congratulations.
Jacqueline Bell.
Congratulations.
Neil Chakraborty.
Well done.
Tracy Dodman.
Congratulations.
Michelle Duffin.
Congratulations.
Ross Little.
Congratulations. Well done.
Marjorie Olu.
Congratulations.
Ezra Sari.
Congratulations.
Debbie Stewart.
Congratulations.
Michelle Thompson.
Congratulations.
For the degree of Master of Arts in Diplomatic Studies, Ekaterini Agoriciani.
Congratulations.
Zoe Holmes.
Congratulations.
Louise Riley.
Congratulations.
Rita Wadey. For the degree of Master of Arts in European Politics, Michelle White.
Congratulations.
For the degree of Master of Arts in International Relations and World Order, David Clark.
Congratulations.
Hannah Collins.
Congratulations.
For the degree of Master of Arts in Mass Communications, Magdalena Bober.
Congratulations.
John Carr.
Well done. Congratulations.
Ka Yan Cheng.
Congratulations.
Rachel Cockayne.
Congratulations.
Gavin Ellison.
Congratulations.
Zafiria Gonata.
Congratulations.
Debbie Henneberry.
Congratulations.
Siu Chin Hung.
Congratulations.
Lena Khatib.
Congratulations.
Joan Kiga.
Congratulations.
Ekaterini Kipriou.
Congratulations.
Stephen Lloyd.
Congratulations.
Kelly McCurleen.
Congratulations.
Saha Muller.
Congratulations.
Evelyn Poe.
Congratulations.
John Saddington.
Congratulations.
Evangelia Vlaku.
Congratulations.
For the degree of Master of Arts in Public Order, John Connor.
Congratulations.
For the degree of Master of Arts in Social and Cultural Theory, Raffaella Valsecchi.
Congratulations.
For the degree of Master of Arts of Business Administration, Zaidi Ahmed.
Congratulations. Well done.
Rubayat Anwar.
Congratulations.
Catherine Britton.
Congratulations.
Mei Tzu Chan.
Congratulations.
Bo Chen.
Congratulations.
Chin Chen.
Congratulations.
Pin Chen.
Congratulations.
Shaw Chen.
Congratulations.
Pui Ching.
Congratulations.
Julie Chow.
Congratulations. Well done.
Chun Chow.
Congratulations. Well done.
Xiu Chuang.
Congratulations. Well done.
Fiona Clark.
Congratulations. Well done.
David Dalbroy.
Congratulations.
Xu Fang.
Congratulations. Well done.
Joy Heseldine.
Congratulations. Well done.
Francis Ho.
Congratulations.
Chen Huang.
Congratulations. Well done.
Lindsay Justin.
Congratulations.
Gulwinder Kaur Atwal.
Congratulations.
Koji Kitamura.
Congratulations.
Hidehiko Kojima.
Congratulations.
Wai Kung.
Congratulations.
Cheng Li.
Congratulations.
Ming Li.
Congratulations. Well done.
Yu Lin.
Congratulations.
Shu Lu.
Congratulations. Well done.
Paul Matkin.
Well done.
Alexis Mikos.
Congratulations. Well done.
Louise Miller,
Congratulations.
Shahid Mohammed,
Congratulations.
Christopher Mushewi,
Congratulations.
James Needham,
Congratulations.
Hyphen U,
Congratulations.
Jamal Parekh,
Congratulations.
Adris Ramzan,
Congratulations.
Seed Rizvi,
Congratulations. Well done.
Nino Shoshitashvili,
Well done. Good. Congratulations.
Daniel Suhendra,
Congratulations. Well done.
Raymond Tan,
Congratulations. Well done.
Kun Tang,
Congratulations.
Jeremy Thompson,
Congratulations.
Hon Tong,
Congratulations. Well done.
Siu Tu,
Congratulations.
Yu Tung,
Congratulations.
Chi Wang,
Congratulations. Well done.
Victoria Woodcock,
Congratulations.
Chun Wu,
Congratulations.
Si Wu,
Congratulations.
Xiang Wu,
Congratulations. Well done.
Jun Zhang.
Congratulations. Well done.
For the degree of Master of Business Administration, Employee Relations, Frank Garofalo.
Congratulations.
For the degree of Master of Business Administration, Finance, Abisoyi Adeyemi.
Congratulations. Well done.
Rabiul Alam,
Congratulations.
Kingsford Amoako,
Congratulations.
Lambros Andreo,
Congratulations.
Michaelis Antoniou,
Congratulations.
Vishal Brambat,
Congratulations.
Wei Chung,
Congratulations.
Boon Chin Chong,
Congratulations.
Neil Gangwani,
Congratulations.
George Georgiou,
Congratulations.
Kok Yan Ho,
Congratulations.
Banker Isaac,
Congratulations.
Mafugi Jame,
Congratulations.
Grace Kasegna,
Congratulations. Well done.
George Kukos,
Congratulations.
Savita Kumar,
Congratulations.
Yin Kwok,
Congratulations.
Malika Mitt,
Congratulations.
Muagi Mitsi,
Congratulations. Well done.
Ellen Odum,
Congratulations. Well done.
Dolores Pazos Gonzalez,
Congratulations.
Panagiota Stilu,
Congratulations. Well done.
Yanis Sagas,
Congratulations.
Dimitris Soros.
Congratulations.
For the degree of Master of Business Administration, Marketing, Shihaj Abdallah,
Congratulations.
Albert Ang,
Congratulations.
Sabine Bach Sorensen,
Congratulations.
Clara Gaitua,
Congratulations.
Rajesh Gansola,
Congratulations. Well done.
Wei Lau,
Congratulations.
Wei Qi Liang,
Congratulations.
Shu Lu,
Congratulations.
Anastasia Pantatsopoulou,
Well done.
Naama Vilensky,
Congratulations.
Sai Weng Yi.
Well done. Congratulations.
For the degree of Master of Business Administration, Total Quality Management, Laila Gasserud.
Congratulations.
For the degree of Master of Science in Criminal Justice Studies, Kate Bacon.
Congratulations. Well done.
Valerie Bethel.
Congratulations. Well done.
Stephanie Bliss.
Congratulations.
Ronald Bowden.
Congratulations.
David Purnell.
Congratulations.
For the degree of Master of Science in Finance, Arkana Banchongrati.
Congratulations.
Leo Cole.
Congratulations.
Anne Esiovwa.
Congratulations. Well done.
Angeliki Flevari.
Congratulations.
Maria Fotopoulou.
Congratulations.
Christos Fondas.
Congratulations.
Benju Galip.
Congratulations.
Despina Gipu.
Congratulations.
Jai Ho.
Congratulations.
Abra Hussein.
Congratulations.
Evangelia Kyriakou.
Congratulations.
Andrew Lee.
Congratulations.
Antonia Liamakopoulou.
Congratulations.
Chun Lin.
Congratulations.
Paralambos Michaelides.
Congratulations.
Sue Ong.
Congratulations. Well done.
Adam Peacock.
Congratulations.
Hassan Senna.
Congratulations.
Won Su.
Congratulations.
Sean Trafford.
Congratulations. Well done.
Konstantinos Siamelis.
Congratulations.
Elroy von Hagt.
Congratulations.
Fernanda Velter.
Congratulations.
For the degree of Master of Science in Marketing, John Berridge.
Congratulations.
Eleni Bescu.
Congratulations.
Sukhvinder Bangal.
Congratulations.
Jerome Burgoyne.
Congratulations.
Singh Chan.
Congratulations.
Ivan Fawn.
Congratulations.
Athanasios Karakotsas.
Congratulations.
Maria Konstantinidou.
Congratulations.
Zambia Kuraki.
Congratulations.
Kamaljit Kunar.
Congratulations.
Ian Little.
Well done.
Malika Matarachi.
Well done.
Nicholas Morphistis.
Congratulations.
Calliope Milonaki.
Congratulations.
Stamatia Papadimatu.
Congratulations.
Bhavik Patel.
Congratulations.
Damien Perochot.
Congratulations.
Gabriela Pustela.
Congratulations.
Khurshid Sheikh.
Congratulations.
Daisy Serpal.
Congratulations.
Cameron Stuckey.
Congratulations.
Rajendra Takanarine.
Congratulations, I think you got it right.
Elpida Tarantilli.
Congratulations.
Iona Tseba.
Congratulations.
Reinhard Timon.
Congratulations.
Maria Udian Jimenez.
Congratulations.
Wei Ping.
Congratulations.
For the degree of Master of Science in Risk, Crisis and Disaster Management, Adrian Harris.
Congratulations.
Andrew Keeling.
Congratulations.
Roger Nicklin.
Congratulations. Well done.
Christopher Rigby Smith.
Congratulations.
Catherine Schofield.
Congratulations.
David Thompson.
Congratulations.
Derek Tyler.
Congratulations.
For the degree of Master of Science in Security Management and Information Technology, Wahid Al-Doy.
Congratulations.
Mohammed Al-Galiani.
Congratulations. Well done.
Sultan Al-Niami.
Congratulations.
Ali Al-Rimahi.
Congratulations.
Paul Burton.
Congratulations. Well done.
Robert Lawson.
Congratulations.
Stephen Potter.
Congratulations.
Paul Wright.
Congratulations.
For the degree of Master of Science in Social Research, Zobia Ali.
Congratulations. Well done.
For the degree of Master of Science in Sociology of Sport, Toby Richards.
Congratulations.
For the degree of Master of Science in Sociology of Sport and Sports Management, Paul Allison.
Congratulations.
Robert Durand.
Congratulations.
Timothy Lewis.
Congratulations.
Victoria Oxford.
Congratulations.
Chris Pinch.
Congratulations. Well done.
Elizabeth Porash-Wilczynski.
Congratulations.
Ian Tuffill.
Congratulations.
For the degree of Master of Science in Sociology of Sport, Sports Management, Peter Bradshaw.
Congratulations.
Christopher Rushton.
Congratulations.
For the degree of Master of Science in the Study of Security Management, Patrick Cogan.
Congratulations.
Mark Foreman.
Congratulations.
Kerry Ferber.
Congratulations.
Philip Grecki.
Congratulations.
Richard Kaminsky.
Well done.
William Miller.
Well done.
Alexander Miruzzi.
Congratulations.
Keith Nielsen.
Congratulations.
Michael Pepper.
Congratulations.
Terry Scriven.
Congratulations.
Fab Uchi.
Congratulations.
Stephen Ward.
Congratulations.
Peter Wilson.
Congratulations.
Alistair Woods.
Congratulations.
For the degree of Master of Science in Training, Kim Aldridge.
Congratulations.
Jeffrey Kabaczynski. Sarah Kerr,
Congratulations.
Eva Kwong,
Congratulations.
Eileen Pettit,
Congratulations.
Anita Pickerdin,
Congratulations.
Susanna Rees,
Congratulations.
Helena Tweet,
Congratulations.
Malcolm Willis.
Congratulations.
For the degree of Master of Science in Training and Human Resource Management, Henry Ike Tek Bin,
Congratulations.
Alatif bin Mohammed Noor,
Congratulations.
Keith Bartlett,
Congratulations.
Antoinette Caruana,
Congratulations.
Ratan Chakrabati,
Congratulations.
Sandra Dalat Zilwa,
Congratulations.
Steve Harvey,
Congratulations. Well done.
Rebecca Hastings,
Congratulations.
Trevor Hills,
Congratulations. Well done.
Tracy Ingham,
Congratulations.
Kenneth Ingram,
Congratulations.
Cheryl Johnson,
Congratulations. Well done.
James Leinster,
Well done.
Maud Suhaimi Sulong,
Congratulations.
Susan Mortlock,
Congratulations.
Moketsi Mpele,
Congratulations.
Julie Reed,
Congratulations.
Peter Robinson,
Congratulations.
Mayor Rooney,
Congratulations.
Yoram Sachs,
Congratulations.
Wayne Thomas,
Congratulations.
David Tournay,
Congratulations.
Wilson Galang Liso,
Congratulations.
Gary Yu,
Congratulations.
and for the degree of Master of Business Administration, C. Su.
Congratulations.
Mr. Chancellor, I ask you to admit to the several degrees for which they are presented by my faculty those candidates who are absent.
By the authority of the Senate, I admit those candidates who are absent to the several degrees which they are presented.
The graduands in the Faculty of Law will be presented by the Dean, Professor White. Will all graduands in the faculty please stand?
Mr. Chancellor, I ask you to admit these candidates from the Faculty of Law to the several degrees for which they are presented.
Graduates of the Faculty of Law, by the authority of the Senate, I admit you to the several degrees which you are presented.
For the degree of Doctor of Philosophy, Irini Stamatudi. For the degree of Master of Laws in Criminal Law and Justice, Katrina Christensen. For the degree of Master of Laws in European and International Trade Law, Valérie Ogro. Astrid Bureau. Letitia Embrecht,
Congratulations.
Domna Kirasopoulou,
Congratulations.
Antonios Roussos,
Congratulations.
Marilena Thanapoulou,
Congratulations.
Danitza Tirana.
Congratulations.
For the degree of Master of Laws in Human Rights and Civil Liberties, Ludovic Hennebel.
Congratulations.
For the degree of Master of Laws in Legal Studies, Christian Rapp.
Congratulations.
For the degree of Master of Laws in Welfare Law, Natalie Carman.
Congratulations.
For the degree of Master of Arts in Human Rights and Civil Liberties, Shaminda Pal Flora.
Congratulations.
Alexander Summers.
Congratulations.
For the degree of Master of Arts in Legal Studies, Jayesh Mistry.
Congratulations.
Mr. Chancellor, I ask you to admit to the several degrees for which they are presented by my faculty those candidates who are absent.
By the authority of the Senate, I admit those candidates who are absent to the several degrees which they are presented.
The graduands in the Faculty of Medicine and Biological Sciences will be presented by the Acting Dean, Professor Lauder. Will all graduands in the faculty please stand?
Mr. Chancellor, I ask you to admit these candidates from the Faculty of Medicine and Biological Sciences to the several degrees for which they are presented.
Graduands of the Faculty of Medicine and Biological Sciences, by the authority of the Senate, I admit you to the several degrees which you are presented.
For the degree of Doctor of Medicine, Philip Perry.
I admit you to be a Doctor of Medicine. Congratulations.
Christine Rolfe.
I admit you to be a Doctor of Medicine. Congratulations.
Mark Scriven.
I admit you to be a Doctor of Medicine. Congratulations.
For the degree of Doctor of Philosophy, Peter Barry.
I admit you to be a Doctor of Philosophy. Congratulations.
Stuart Clark.
I admit you to be a Doctor of Philosophy. Congratulations.
Caroline Hollies.
I admit you to be a Doctor of Philosophy. Congratulations.
Karen Holloway.
I admit you to be a Doctor of Philosophy. Congratulations.
Joanna Kemp.
I admit you to be a Doctor of Philosophy. Congratulations.
Elizabeth Mellor.
I admit you to be a Doctor of Philosophy. Congratulations.
Curry Poole.
I admit you to be a Doctor of Philosophy. Congratulations.
Sarah Rogan.
Congratulations.
Rosamond Stanley.
Congratulations.
Hassan Yeselkare.
Congratulations. Well done.
For the degree of Doctor of Clinical Psychology, Kate Broadbent.
I admit you to be a Doctor of Clinical Psychology.
Holly Capey.
I admit you to be a Doctor of Clinical Psychology.
Wendy Kurtzy.
Congratulations.
Alinda Gillett.
Congratulations. Very well done.
Kira Masterson.
Congratulations. Well done.
Katie Norman.
Congratulations. Well done.
Alison Payne.
Congratulations. Well done.
Elizabeth Ravel.
Congratulations. Well done.
Louise Sainsbury.
Congratulations. Well done.
Gurdip Sura.
Congratulations. Well done.
Rachel Vaughan. For the degree of Master of Research, Sophie Mooney. For the degree of Master of Science in Forensic Psychology, Lisa Anderson. Philip Charlesworth. Christopher Dean. Stephen Evans. Andrea Harrison. Sarah Hedges. Sarah Hume. Lindy Maslin. Laura McLennan. Sally Morris. For the degree of Master of Science in Forensic and Legal Psychology, Richard Barker. Patricia Campbell Hughes. Christina Dimitriou. Declan Donnelly. Elizabeth Eastham. Christopher Few. Michael Griffiths. Eliza Harris. Fiona Head. Patricia Hurst. Zoe Holmes. Hugh Hughes. Julia Lewis. Claire Mason. Jackie Milsom. Celia Scott. Emma Trinder. Rachel Wheatley. Catherine Warden. For the degree of Master of Science in Medical Statistics, Anna Crossland. Catherine Davey. Jeremy Humphreys. Katie Lewis. Kerry Litt. Christopher Mansfield. Richard Riley. Lisa Robertson. Nicola Thomas. Claire Weston. For the degree of Master of Science in Molecular Genetics, Sager Hussain. Nicoletta Karabetsu. Rashmi Misra. For the degree of Master of Science in Molecular Pathology and Toxicology, Sapna Bakhtar. Rian William. Angela Harvard. Karim Jetta. Sally Johnson. For the degree of Master of Science in Natural Resource Management, Alison Riggs. Paul Stanyard. Jane Stevens. Nicola Whitworth. Mr. Chancellor, I ask you to admit to the several degrees for which they are presented by my faculty those candidates who are absent.
By the authority of the Senate, I admit those candidates who are absent to the several degrees which they are presented.
The graduands in the Faculty of Education and Continuing Studies will be presented by the Dean, Professor Fogelman. Will all graduands in the faculty please stand?
Mr. Chancellor, I ask you to admit these candidates from the Faculty of Education and Continuing Studies to the several degrees for which they are presented.
Graduands of the Faculty of Education and Continuing Studies, I admit you to the several degrees which you are presented by the authority of the Senate.
For the degree of Doctor of Philosophy, Linda Chapman. Majid Nemati. Christine Wise. For the degree of Doctor of Education, Leslie Anderson. Wing Choi Cheng. Paul Pleasance. For the degree of Master of Education, Andrew Cannon. For the degree of Master of Arts in Applied Linguistics and the Teaching of English to Speakers of Other Languages, Ralph Baker. Alessandra Neal. For the degree of Master of Arts in Professional Studies in Education, Maureen Sylvester. Kenneth Tyro. Philip Wakefield. For the degree of Master of Business Administration in Educational Management, Lorraine Allen. Stephen Bates. Elaine Beer. Diane Green. Michael Halliday. Martina Headley. Peter Hubert. Susan Lawrence. Karen Lindley. Sandra Lubiesco. Graham Sharp. Janice Vince. David Waters. Scott Weston. Peter Williams. Robert Wilson. Mr. Chancellor, I ask you to admit to the several degrees for which they are presented by my faculty those candidates who are absent.
By the authority of the Senate, I admit those candidates who are absent to the several degrees which they are presented. Today is the most important day for all of us. First, for the University of Leicester. This is the first degree ceremony of the new millennium, and it can symbolically be taken as its coming of age. The university has grown from a small college serving the needs of the area to a full-blown university serving the worldwide community. In this new era of the 21st century, it is now a mature institution, confident of its future, and having expertise and strength across a wide range of disciplines. Next, it is a big day for our new Vice-Chancellor, Robert Burgess, who is participating in his first degree ceremony here. I know that the university is fortunate to have attracted such an energetic and enthusiastic Chief Executive, and I hope he enjoys the challenge of steering the new university forward in this new century. We wish him well. Next, I should congratulate our two honorary graduates, who you have heard so much about from our public orators. We are most delighted to include them in this ceremony also. And finally, most important of all, this is the big day for all of you who have been awarded the degree today. It is a justified reward for the long hours of study and hard work that you've had to put in. I'm sure that not all of you will have had an easy time. You may have had financial problems to overcome, intellectual or psychological. I'm sure that all of you will have had help from your families, friends and teachers to get through the difficult times. Many of these supporters will be in this hall today celebrating with you, and they certainly deserve to share the occasion. Universities have diversified greatly since my time as a student. They provide a wider range of courses, and they cater for a different mix of students, including those who return for further study at a later stage of their lives, and those from abroad who study by distance learning techniques. In this country, over 30% of each age group now go on to tertiary education, and this figure is likely to keep increasing. The more complex society we now live in requires increasingly well-educated and professionally trained citizens. The days when the bulk of the population tilled the fields or worked in factories have vanished. We live in the age of information. We acquire it, we transmit it, and we exploit it. The computer and the internet represent the new way of life, and our graduates have to be able to adapt to it. And since information is what underpins our new society, it is not surprising that universities, whose function is to derive information by research and to transmit it by education, play such a key role. Of course, not all parts of the world have developed equally rapidly, and many people in Africa, Asia, and Latin America still live in great poverty and deprivation. Although the days of great empires and missionaries are over, there are other factors, economic, technical, and political, that bind us all together, and we in this country have to play our part in helping to raise the living standards in other parts of the world. In particular, institutions such as the University of Leicester perform a key function. Many of our graduates come from abroad or are likely to spend part of their working careers abroad, contributing in various ways to the improvement of the world. Unlike the summer graduation, today is reserved for higher degrees, many tailored to the specific needs of modern life. And I'm sure that you'll find that your training here is of great benefit in the outside world, and I wish you all well in your careers. A few amongst you may remain in the academic world, pursuing further scholarship and research. And as one who himself followed this path, I would like to offer a few words of encouragement. Although, like all human activities, academic life has its share of misery and frustration, it also offers the ultimate intellectual reward, the reward of enlightenment. After this ceremony and the appropriate celebrations, you will all go your different ways. But I hope you will retain happy memories of Leicester, and that we shall be able to count on your continued interest and support in the years to come. Universities have a long reach in both space and time. They bind together different nations and different generations, and the education they provide does not end at graduation, it continues with you for life. Thank you. I now declare this congregation closed.